All right, what's up? I'm here with Joe and Billy, some I don't know, just old friends, OGs of the space. We're gonna talk about NFTs like in a really relaxed, weird, just kind of like search the mental model and kind of spit it out. I also want to like show off some tools that I have for someone who wants to get in and kind of just like mint their NFTs. What's up, guys? How's it going? How we doing? NFT day.
Doing quite well. How you doing, Austin?
Good, man. That tan is looking nice. You
Oh,
must
thank you,
be
thank you.
you must be closer to the equator than I am.
I am. I'm in good old Puerto Rico, which is a beautiful place, and everyone is welcome. And if you're interested in a vibrant crypto community in a tropical place, Puerto Rico might be the place for you.
All
This
right. Joe,
All
how you
right.
doing?
Doing great. I'm a little bit colder up here in New Hampshire, but
That's
yeah.
right. We got snow finally melted in Colorado, so we are good. But we're talking about so we're talking about NFTs. We probably should do like a quick little fungible versus non-fungible talk, even, right? So fungible is like gold and oil. If I give you four, you can kind of mix them all together, and then you don't know which one was which, right? And non-fungible is kind of like baseball cards or something unique, like. I don't have anything. You guys have any? Oh, dude, look at this. Look what I have sitting here. It's so perfect.
Is that a pog?
That's a pog. That's right.
Wow.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I have a pog. How perfect for the NFT talk to have a pog.
Very rare.
But a unique asset, something that is just it has a single unique ID and it has some unique metadata, something interesting about it. Were you going to dive in there too, Billy?
Oh no, I think that this is really important to hammer home because I think there's a lot of people who are still like extremely confused. I don't know if it's your audience, but I have probably 10 people every single day asking me what an NFT is. So yeah, I think this is very important to get right.
We could even kind of like roll in the Solidity just a tiny bit. Thinking of it from a
Oh
programmer
yeah.
standpoint, a fungible token basically just has a balance for each person. Billy has his balance. I have my balance. I have 4. Billy has 3. I send him 1.5, right? And then our balances update, right? I can do a transfer to you, and all that happens in that transfer is we subtract the amount from my balance and add the amount to your balance. But with NFTs, each one has an individual unique ID. I send you ID number 3. You send me ID number 6. And each of those assets with its own unique ID has a unique, what's called a token URI, is what we ended up calling it for some reason. But it's like the metadata. And what it is almost like a manifest. But we can get into that a little bit more. But I think just the difference between just tracking someone's balance and tracking each individual thing and who owns it is a different ownership pattern. Does that make sense?
That is the perfect description. And I don't know if it just makes a whole lot of sense to me because I'm technical, but like I think that I will attempt explaining it that way to other people now. I think that was that was really good.
Dope. All right, I'm going to do a screen share real quick, and I'm going to dive into Scaffold ETH. So Scaffold ETH is it's like a template. It's like a template for coders. And I just want to show off a specific, so we have the simple NFT branch. It has all the instructions for getting started, but I'm just gonna like fast forward to, so I've got let me bring that up a little bit more. I've got the web server here, then I've got my blockchain here, and then I'm going to do a yarn deploy. And that is going to deploy my NFT smart contract. So you start with, you start with an NFT contract here. Here's our NFT contract. It's pulled from OpenZeppelin, very, very simple. We have one mint item function, and basically we increment a token ID and we hand that token to the person, right? So we're going to make a new one. It's going to be we're going to keep track of IDs in some counter. And then whenever we make a new one, we're going to increment that ID and send that new unique token to the person we're minting to. So this will bring up a full standing app. So you have your smart contract and you have your app. And there's no tokens yet. So you need to run a yarn mint. And that is going to run this mint script. And it's going to mint a bunch of these tokens to my front end user. So now we can see these tokens getting minted in. And what you can do is open up like an incognito window and go to localhost 3000. And we'll have a different address here. See how this is like this green guy and this is like this blue guy. if I give this guy some gas, I want to send this buffalo over to this guy, I can copy his address and paste it in here and hit transfer, and we should see the buffalo disappear. There we go. We could go see transfer events. So this is just like a freestanding dApp with a smart contract. It deploys the NFTs for you. You basically get in here and just edit this minting function, and it will make the NFTs for you. So the first thing I wanted to dive into is that token URI and IPFS, right? IPFS is really a strange way to track this. But what we have is in our token, when we're talking about that metadata, it's like a token URI. It's like a link to some kind of manifest about the information. So what you do is you put this information up on IPFS, and that's represented by the token. So token number 1 has this metadata, and you use that to go find the image, you find the name, you can even have like attributes to it, and those show up on OpenSea. If I think kind of, yeah, go ahead, please.
So I was just going to pause there and say, I think this is, I don't want to dive too into the weeds on this, but this is a really important piece of the puzzle that I think a lot of people are kind of glossing over, is kind of like the hosting of the metadata of the NFTs. And so basically when you're buying an NFT, you're just buying like a hash, unless that metadata is kind of robust or like hosted in a robust way. So you want to make sure that, you know, maybe it's not just some centralized server that you can't rely on that's hosting that data. Maybe you want to make sure that if it's on IPFS, it's pinned, or like, I don't know. I think that people just need to be aware that you're not just buying this on-chain asset, you're buying this thing on-chain that points to a bunch of off-chain metadata. And if that off-chain metadata is not hosted for whatever reason, your NFT, like, it's not really your NFT anymore, kind of.
That's totally, yeah, I love that for sure. Like basically a lot of this stuff, this token URI is the only thing that's stored on chain, and who owns that token URI. And that points to this stuff, but you're right. If that's not out in IPFS when this front end loads and goes looking for it, then it doesn't exist, right? So yeah, all you own is that IPFS hash technically. And so it's what's behind that you're buying, and that thing needs to stay up. If you use, I think I'm even using like austingriffith.com or something. Let's go look at this IPFS. Yeah, so I'm actually using, this is just my web host for this NFT, and you'll find that a lot in a lot of NFTs. You probably want to at least use IPFS for all of this stuff and then have it pinned on a couple of machines, but you want to think about like, what would it take to knock this over? Okay.
Yeah. So before you spend $2 million on an NFT, please at least check like what the metadata is pointing to and where it's hosted.
That's a great, yep. And yeah, all these, the smart contract should be open source. You should be able to look at the smart contract and see like where that token URI is in the code, but also follow that token URI and see what this information looks like. So once I upload this to IPFS, it gives me a hash, and it's content addressable, right? If I change this to Bison and I hit upload, we're going to get a different hash. Watch this hash should, oh, I need to hit save here. There we go. Now watch this hash, it should change. Yep, so we get a different hash there. And you can go out to IPFS with that hash and pull it back, right? So it's kind of like a storage layer with content addressable content. You put the content out there, you get a hash back, you take that hash, you mint it into your collectible, right? So that's like, this is like level 1 collectibles. And what we're seeing, what the problem here is I have to mint these one at a time. The thing that we want to dive into on this call is I'm minting these things one at a time, and it's costing me like $60. So as an artist, I put out the smart contract that cost me like $500, and then each one of these mints is like another $40 to $50. So if I wanted to mint 1,000 of my pieces of art and I don't know if they're going to sell, there's a lot of overhead there. So what we want to look at is a second model here that will allow us to kind of mint these things. So you said it in a tweet, Billy. I feel like what started this off was you tweeting about like counterfactual NFTs, right? Which is a stupid long word that we all keep using, but you want to just like dive into what that might mean?
Yeah, and you might actually be able to describe this better than me because you are very eloquent, but and I'm not that great at talking. But the way that I think about counterfactual assets, like counterfactual NFTs are obviously a subset of counterfactual assets, but a counterfactual asset is basically something that it's like you own something that says if I did X, I would have Y. And you can like prove that if you did X, then you would have Y. So in this example, it'd be like, let's say a signed piece of cryptographic data that says, hey, if I submit this piece of data to the chain, I could mint one of these NFTs. I don't have to mint it, but I have the privilege to be able to mint it if I want to. Did I explain
I like
that well
that.
at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll explain. I would explain it a little differently, but that's like, what you're saying is there's like a cryptographically backed method where I don't have to put it on chain now, but I've done something over here. So by the time I do put it on chain, it's going to be valid. And someone else couldn't just grab some junk and put it on chain and have it work, right?
Exactly.
You need some mechanism that's on chain that's ready to catch this and make it work, but you don't have to do it until a time comes. Or you can pre-calculate where a smart contract will land and send money to it, but you don't have to deploy the smart contract until later. And then finally, when you do, you know where it's going to land because you've sort of pre-calculated it. Couple different angles at that. I still don't think we have a great explanation. Basically, we don't want all the overhead, right? We want an artist to say, I want to mint all of my works for that one $500 contract, and I want to put them all on sale, and I want to allow anyone to get in here, and then when they decide they want to buy one, I want them to have to pay the gas. And that's this second one that I'll dive into here next.
Also, I think there's and I don't want to dive into it too much because I think it's a little bit different than the use case that you've targeted here, but with counterfactual assets, you could also do interesting things where like you basically can prove that you own this asset even though it doesn't live on chain. And so you don't have to mint it if you don't want to. So you could wait till gas costs are lower to mint it. You could create an ecosystem where people are trading these off-chain assets. There's some like very interesting stuff that can be done. But I mean, definitely one of the biggest and best use cases is just like passing the minting cost of, let's say, the NFT to the person that's buying it.
And that's what we're going to do right here. And then, so I'm going to do it in a very like caveman way. And then we can kind of talk about some more like galaxy brain ways to do it. So this where I'm working out of now is the buyer mints NFT. So again, there's a nice, easy tutorial. If you are a developer or you are an artist that you have a developer friend or you are an artist developer, jump in here. You should be able to just follow these instructions. But what you get is instead of setting up your artwork in JSON, in IPFS, you basically, and then into the token, you have this nice manifest here. So there's like this artwork.json file. You get in here, you set up all your artwork. And it's just a text file, right? You don't have to mess around with stuff. But then you do a yarn upload, and it's going to process all this stuff, and it's going to upload it to IPFS one at a time, and then come back with all of our fingerprints. So now that we have all of our fingerprints of all of our pieces of work, then what we're going to do is we're going to deploy our smart contract with an array of those fingerprints that are basically we're going to put them for sale. So we've added a for sale mapping within our contract. So one new piece of storage within our smart contract saying whether or not some IPFS hash is for sale. But what's really cool about that is we don't have to actually mint the thing. We just have to write one little piece in that it's for sale in an array. So it costs us a little bit and there's a little overhead, but what you can do is really like set up a much bigger gallery, right? And so now that I've uploaded those, I think they just like show up in my app here. Let me see what I need to do. I feel like something is not working. Let me try. They should show up in the app in a second. But what we want to do is basically take this list of artwork that's not minted to chain yet. Oh, you know what I need to do? I need to deploy the contract. Come on, Griffith. Oh, now I really messed it up. I'm getting all the way out. Okay, yarn deploy. That's what I need to do. So yarn deploy is going to ship our contract. See that? There. So it takes all those fingerprints and it deploys our contract. And that was cheap, but let me adjust the price real quick to whatever. What are we at? 132. I want to see like mainnet prices. So I want to mint this contract, even though I'm minting it locally. I want to see it cost what it would cost if we were doing it on mainnet right now. So yeah, that times whatever the price of, so 1830. Yeah, so $548. I think it was $512. So like an extra like $30 to mint this thing with all the fingerprints in it. But now we have a gallery of works, and this gallery can be way longer, right? I don't know how long until you run into gas constraints by throwing those fingerprints in there. But basically, all we have to put in is a fingerprint. We don't have to put the whole token on chain at first. Now, if someone comes along, let's give this user like $1,000 because I want to see. Let's see. Yeah, let's just do that. Okay, so 1,000 mainnet dollars, and they're going to go ahead and mint this Godzilla. There we go. And what they pay? Yeah, they paid quite a bit, right? I think they paid about $60 there. Let me connect my MetaMask and actually have it that dude could even give us a better cost here. All right, so now that I have my MetaMask, let's try buying this guy here. So $61. Okay, so we're not even paying a price here. The buyer is simply paying the gas to mint this NFT to buy it. So we would, if we wanted to add a new price, we would add a new storage element over in the contract. And I think that's a fun thing to kind of start riffing on and open this up to is now that we're kind of tracking this thing for sale, and the buyer is the one that's buying the piece of, or paying the gas to buy the work. Any artist can come along, clone this, edit their artwork.json. But really, what's really interesting is any old programmer could just get into this Solidity and start learning like, oh, like this is how smart contracts work. So you just created this mapping between a bytes32, which is our fingerprint, and a for sale, and you just set it. Look at this for loop, just a plain old for loop in your constructor, right? And then you check it, you require that thing is not set, and then you set it to, you require that it is set, and then you set it to false. So there's like these little mechanics that we can throw into this Solidity, and we can do things like this counterfactual NFT minting. I'm gonna open it up to you guys there because I've been mansplaining for too long, but then we can dive into like some different topics and where to go from there.
Cool. This is really awesome. And I personally hadn't run through this example before. So just to like see what you've done, Austin, like this is really cool and it's really elegant. And I think this is really important. And I hate to like keep bringing things up to a high level. I don't know like exactly what your audience is, but like, I think it's really important for this type of content and like material and kind of bootstrappy apps to exist, because people are increasingly relying on middlemen and centralized services, especially like mint these NFTs right now. And we're trying to get away from that. And so I highly recommend you check out like this branch of Scaffold ETH to create your little gallery if you are debating deploying some NFTs to mainnet, because this is kind of within the ethos of the Ethereum community. And I know a lot of people that are new and minting NFTs and interacting with Ethereum for the first time maybe might not share those same like crypto punk like ideologies, but just so you know, like that's where we're coming from. We're trying to, you know, not rely on centralized services as much anymore. So yeah, highly recommend people do this. And Austin, like, thank you for creating this solution, because this is really cool.
Dope. Yeah, and I just to sort of echo what Billy said, and I think it is pretty like to a somewhat new developer or somebody who's only just starting to experiment with Solidity. I think having your libraries that you just demonstrated for us right there, open source available, is something that I mean, I remember when I was, you know, learning Solidity, it was probably back in 2016, and it was very hard to find any information. There was no good examples. Like to have your repositories as something and having this as something to work from, I think you can go from 0 to 60 with this stuff really quick, and it'll really help you wrap your mind around the internals of what's going on, rather than just filling out a web form and hitting a button to make your NFT. Now you know, if you spend a little bit of effort, go through a little bit of pain, and learn about the guts of what's going on behind the scenes, it's going to be a pretty valuable experience. And I think you'll start to see and think about like ways that you can say, hey, I have this little customization that I want to add to this. I have a little, you know, somewhat of a unique use case. So this doesn't quite fit what I want to do, but I'm going to take Austin's code. I'm going to add some kind of, you know, fractional ownership. I'm going to add some kind of price curve, or, you know,
let's get into it.
The possibilities are endless. We're literally talking about programmable,
yeah. And
programmable blockchain interface. Yeah.
And I hate to I know that maybe this isn't the direction you want to go, Austin, but I want to get a little philosophical. Is that's why the pace of innovation in Ethereum space is so fast, is because everyone is building on everyone else. And so you don't really want to start from scratch. Even if you could, I think it's best to just start with the stuff that maybe Austin has built and iterate from there, because you're just saving yourself a bunch of time. And that's how we're able to just scale and innovate at the pace that we have been, which has just been ludicrous. It's been absolutely insane if you've been seeing what's going on.
And really my stuff is on top of I hardly wrote any Solidity there, right? It's mostly the Open Zeppelin contracts, hard hat for doing the deployment and the task running. I've got a React app, and I built a bunch of stuff into the front end. You noticed in that wallet when I was sending around, there was blocky previews, and it was doing US dollars to ETH, little components in the React that if you were doing a hackathon project, you just even wouldn't think about them, or you would get to them eventually and have to slug through them. It kind of has all that stuff off the shelf for you. But one thing we were digging into there, kind of the leaning away from going to some service and leaning into bringing it up locally. That unlocks some really neat things. And one thing I wanted to hint at is just generative art, right? If you wanted to do some kind of generative art that you wanted to generate maybe thousands of them, right? And do some kind of procedural thing based on, the hash of the block or something like that. You just can't go to a platform and do that. There are generative art platforms, and you'll be fitting to their themes, but I guess also they are accepting themes. So there's lots of ways to plug in here.
You just made me, okay. So again, getting a little bit more philosophical and away from the dev stuff, but I think that you just hit the nail on the head for maybe why a lot of NFTs look the way that they do. And the reason why all of the things that we're seeing right now are art and collectibles, because the centralized platforms that allow you to easily create and host NFTs right now are kind of catering to the art/collectible use case. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. NFTs are just an asset class, kind of. It's just we explained at the beginning of the video, it's just unique assets as opposed to, fungible assets, for lack of a better word. But there's so many use cases for this, and I don't want to discredit the art and the creative stuff. But when you're deploying these things and thinking about them, feel free to get creative. It doesn't have to be a piece of art. It can be anything. An NFT can represent a mortgage or a house or literally any unique asset. And so, sorry for going on a tangent, but I just think that, yeah, the reason why maybe all these things are kind of venturing down this path of creative stuff is because the centralized platforms that are supporting them are catering to that use case.
And it's still dope, and it's bringing mainstream audiences, awesome, and really neat stuff is going on. I bought this piece that was made in Blender that it was like a room, and all you could see is inside the room, but there was a little hole cut out of the top, and the artist made the sun kind of revolve around it, but the view is just inside the room, and you see the shadow of the sun kind of move throughout the room. And I thought that was really clever, and that was oh, this is a dope NFT. I'm gonna pick that up. So that's cool. There's tons of awesome artist use cases within that world of, I can make something in Blender, I can make something in Photoshop. But what I want to say is, let's find the hackers and let's find the creators, and let's find someone who has a whole bunch of Photoshop layers, and let's get them a script that export those things into deterministic NFTs, right? The script to take an artist, grab an artist buddy's Photoshop and figure out how to mint that into 1,000 different counterfactual NFTs. That's the kind of stuff that I want to see people doing, and pulling repos off the shelf and kind of really creating stuff and tweaking stuff and finding new mechanics within the Solidity. I could just show off what a bonding curve looks like. I don't think we really need to build one, but it'd be cool just to hint at some of these topics. Okay, so once you have this kind of vanilla repo where you have a gallery and your people can buy from that gallery, where can you go with it as a creator? Let me just dive in. Any questions there? Should we just go for it and just
I actually have a question. So yeah. Do you know how like the hash masks bonding curve work? Because people are like touting that as like a good distribution model. And I'm familiar with bonding curves, but I don't know like specifically what they did that made it quote unquote more fair.
I don't know. I don't know. I think that had to do with maybe the distribution of it, where anybody could come in and get them at a certain time. So hash masks were a big mystery to me. I still don't totally understand hash masks. So what I wanted to show is okay. So bonding curve. Okay, bonding curve. Heady math. It's like calculus and solidity. No one wants to F around with bonding curves. Bonding curves give you instant liquidity though. So basically you kind of set up some reserves and you can buy and sell up and down that curve and the price will adjust. So as I buy more, the price goes up. As I sell them off, the price goes down. If I bought one here and then a bunch of people bought in and then I sold mine, I'd make a profit on it, right? There's instant liquidity. You can buy, sell. That with fungible tokens, it's really hard because you have to use like the Bancor model and you can kind of really get into the weeds with it. But with NFTs, we're buying these things one at a time. So it's like a superpower of NFTs to be able to put these things into one of those liquidity bonding curves with just a couple of numbers. So if I get into this contract here, I have this old backlog market, but this was, so what you need is technically a price, right? Let's keep track of these. Let's say I have 10 NFTs to mint and the first one is going to cost 1. And then the multiplier is just 2. We'll just say the multiplier is 2. So I buy one and the price now is multiplied by 2. I buy another one, now the price is at 4. I buy another one, the price is at 8, right? Something along those lines. So how do you do that in Solidity? You basically keep that starting at, you have a starting price. Whoa, and then you basically need a multiplier, and you can't do decimals in Solidity, so you'll need a numerator and a denominator. But then you sort of can have a next price and a previous price. And it's just your next price is basically your current price times the numerator divided by the denominator, right? So then you can create your multiplier and you can basically let these things get bought and sold. And I mean, that's it. There's a buy function and a sell function. There's a numerator and a denominator, and there's a price. No calculus, no heady stuff. Even Austin can figure it out. It's right here. So this is in the backlog market, but we'll have a bonding curve up soon, I'm sure. Fractional ownership, bonding curves. Going back to counterfactual. So the way we could, another method or 2 more methods where we can set the contract up to be sure that only our artwork is going to get minted in it, but do it in a way that we don't have to pay for all the artwork up front, right? The same way we did. So in the first example here, basically we passed in a giant list of things that were legal, and then it checks to see if it's legal, makes it illegal, and then mints it, right? So that's the bonehead kind of caveman way to do it. Now, another interesting way to do it is to use signed messages, where the artist can sign one of these hashes and you can pass in the signature and the hash. We can recover that in the smart contract. So if you go to, I think it's signature recover, basically, oh no, come on. You can have someone make an off-chain signature and you can prove that signature within the smart contract. And so what you would do is have the artist come up with a new piece of art, sign it, and then that would be legal in the contract at any time. The problem with that is you kind of want digital scarcity. And with this model, the artist can just mint and mint and mint and mint. With the previous model, it's like these 20 are going to be the only 20 ever in the smart contract. And that like limited, that digitally scarce, limited, provably rare aspect of it is actually pretty valuable, I think. So the signature method, although it's like super dope in terms of being able to sign messages and do this in a kind of cool cryptographic way, it does leave it to kind of open for the artist to just keep minting and keep minting. I want to show the recover function here. There you go. Yeah, so you bring in, again, you bring in cryptography from OpenZeppelin, you bring in the ECDSA library, then you sign something. There's an example of how to sign things, but then right here, we just recover. Basically, we have a hash and a signature and we get back an address. We make sure that address is the owner or the artist, and if it is, we mint them. All right, Third thing, big one. This was Dennison's idea. I got it from some Dada artists the other day. Merkel Trees. So we saw a Merkel drop with Uniswap the other day, or not the other day. What is it, 6 months ago now, or something like that? But what they were able to do is gather a whole bunch of off-chain addresses, and then any of those off-chain addresses were legal to get on and claim some money. But if they were to write all of those addresses on chain, it would have been a huge nightmare and it would be way too expensive, right? So what about if we did this Merkel idea with NFTs? The artist creates a 1,000 NFT long JSON file. We turn that into the Merkel tree. We put the Merkel root into the contract and deploy it. It's not done yet, but I think we need to build it. But then you could do this with a Merkel tree. It would be, you know, digitally limited. You could tell like the scarcity and everything in the contract, but then it would be, you know, still counterfactual. It would check through that Merkel tree and be able to prove, yeah, sure enough, this is one of the 1,000 paintings from this artist. Go ahead and mint it. What do you guys say? So much mansplaining.
That's an awesome idea. I think that should absolutely happen. That's like it's like an objective yes from me.
I think that's actually, you just, it's a great solution to the problem you just posed about 5 minutes ago with digital scarcity and still wanting to have a counterfactual asset. So yeah, I think that's a really cool idea. And yeah, definitely would love to see that implemented and have an example repo to be able to play with that.
Yeah, and going back to the scarcity thing, I think that, just random aside, like what if you combined like these off-chain signed messages with a bonding curve so that like, yes, they maybe wouldn't be unique, but like if you wait to claim, you run the risk of someone front running you and minting before you and getting a cheaper price. But also like you might want to wait because gas prices are too high. I don't know. I think there's something interesting there as well.
And it's a market, right? Yeah, incentives, like you're building it all in. There's so many fun things to.
And I mean, there can even be a way for you to maybe sell, you can sell access to your signature and basically sign a message only for a certain user. So if you know a user has bought your product, you then sign a message just for him to reveal, and that sort of will sort of mitigate. I guess it doesn't really mitigate the scarcity. He can still mint that for 1,000 other users, so that might not necessarily solve that problem. But I'm just sort of thinking back to when we actually developed back when we were working as a Rapid under Consensus, we developed we called it emblems, I think. And that involved NFTs for, I guess we were imagining like video game tokens or just any kind of, I guess it was sort of generalized NFT. And a main component of it was that we were able to redeem them or allow people to redeem them counterfactually, which was just with a signed message, just like you just displayed. So
I love the idea of signed messages in QR codes, like on the bottom of a piece of merchandise, like signed by the manufacturer, and you scan that and it goes on and mints you an NFT now. You could think of tons of these are going to get created and thrown away, but the one that I want to collect, I can get it at home and I can shoot it on my phone and I can have that collectible like immediately in a burner wallet or something. There's a lot of... Dude, we got to get into socks and physical merch too.
Oh my God.
You should go next, Billy, and then we should do a merch. Uh-oh. Can you hear?
Yeah, wait. Sorry, my AirPods are dying. Let me try to disconnect them. You guys can talk while I'm...
We gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, just thinking of like physical merch, and I think unisocks are a classic example. And to be honest, I haven't like studied it, so I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm pretty sure it was a token that was sold on a curve, and then you need to burn the token to get. And then if you burn the token, it gets redeemed, and you get like a physical pair of socks sent to you. But to anyone who didn't burn them, they're worth like $100,000 now because of this kind of you know, supply and demand, I guess.
Yeah, Joe, dude, it's blowing up. There's, it's kind of ridiculous what the price that these things are selling for. But yeah, the whole ecosystem is flooding. And the comment I wanted to make before my AirPods died was, I think like what Joe said, the use case that we were kind of targeting was, okay, we were kind of a game developer because we were creating this game internally for Consensus to play. And we're like, okay, well, we don't want to pay the gas costs of like minting these NFTs for all the people that we're ultimately going to distribute to, when people could like complete these quests, and for completing quests, they would get these NFTs, like the Gitcoin badges, whatever, for doing their quest. Same idea here. You get a little NFT for completing some sort of specific action on chain. And like as the game developer, yeah, for artists, you know, you also don't want to mint, but game developer is like a much larger scale operation where you're maybe minting thousands or millions of these NFTs, and you definitely don't want to pay the gas cost of doing that. And so maybe in that scenario, you don't want them to be like provably scarce. You want anyone who is able to complete an action to obtain one of those NFTs. And in that scenario, I think that's like an extremely good use case for like this signed message approach.
This is leading to maybe even the talk about L2s and side chains, and how the degentrification of Ethereum is kind of causing this spill off onto these other chains. So yeah, I mean, maybe we should talk about that first. We'll do Unisocks. Unisocks is on the list, and really, actually, here, let me just finish the Unisocks talk. All I wanted to do is show that the Open Zeppelin contract brings in ERC 721 burnable, and that just gives you a burn function. So what you would do is you would just program a new function into your contract that says redeem, and in the redeem, you would burn their token, and then it would trigger an event and you would send them some socks, right? So like all of this stuff is basically like off the shelf with small tweaks, and you just have to be an okay programmer with maybe an auditor buddy or something like that. Let's go down that route a little bit, but yeah. Okay. So let's see, where should we go next? What are we on? What do you think?
I love this burn example too, because it's just like, it's so simple. Like all this stuff is so simple. It's not like you're adding like any crazy complex thing, but every small thing you add is a completely new use case and functionality. You can do so many cool creative things with just like the smallest amount of code, which is really, really cool.
All right, I got side chains.
Go.
L2s. So if you haven't used Nifty Inc yet, this is built with Scaffold ETH. Look at this. It's the same exact UI we were seeing with Scaffold ETH. So this is Nifty Inc. I'm just gonna draw some fire thing here. Oh, that's some terrible fire. But yes, so I'm gonna call this fire. I'm gonna mint this at 3. We're gonna mint 3. I'll send it to you guys. So if you guys go to niftyinc.com, send me your address there. So I'm gonna ink these. Oh no, wait. I want to log out. I'm gonna come in as an incognito. Let's say you're on an Apple iPad in Safari and you go to Nifty Inc, right? You don't have a crypto wallet. You don't have any ETH. You don't even know what blockchain is. This is on a side chain, but let's see, we draw our terrible fire again. What even is that? It's maybe a bag of something. I'm gonna call it bags. There we go. Crypto investor. So I'm gonna draw this bag. I'm gonna hit ink. It's gonna use a burner wallet. It's going to sign a meta transaction. It's going to get relayed on chain. The platform creator, I'm going to pay the gas for you. You as the artist, you don't have to mess around with any of that. It takes a little bit longer. It takes like more like 10 or 15 seconds. And hopefully this goes through. This might be a bad demo if this falls over. Oh no, it usually should go by now. Oh no, I might have to send some money in and pay the gas. This side chain is supposed to be paying the gas.
I mean, still a cool concept.
Right. What do we got? Let's see who failed here. Let's try it again. So basically, this is an NFT platform that's on a side chain. We use meta transactions and burner wallets to try to make the UX better for you. Let's see if I can try that again with any kind of feedback. Oh, I'm filtering. Here we go. That's why. Okay. Either way, I can even just send a penny. Yep. Dang it. Come on, man. Okay. So there's a lot of Web 2 technologies to make a scalable Web 3 technology work, and some server somewhere is not paying the gas. So I'm going to use an instant wallet built with Scaffold ETH. Same exact Same exact UI. I'm gonna hit send, scan this. So same exact UI we see in all of these products, right? I'm just pulling it off the shelf to build this. I'm gonna send this guy in 5 cents. Now he will have 5 cents to mint his NFT on this sidechain. I was hoping it would go faster than that, but it looks like my meta transaction trick is not working and we had to pay for it like peasants. But that cost me a fraction of a cent. It took less than 5 seconds. Now my bag is open and I can even mint these. So let me send this one to austingriffith.eth. What are you guys' ETH addresses? Can I mint you some?
Yeah, I will send you mine.
Are you just billy.eth?
Mine's Billy, but with the weird E.
Oh man, I don't even know how to do that.
I don't know how to. I don't know how I gotta.
That like ruins the niceness of ENS to have like a tricky character in your ENS. But anyways, these
everyone's doing that these days. So I was the OG weird E symbol in my ENS thing.
So normally an artist can get in here. They don't have to know about gas. They don't have to know about blockchain. They can make something. They can mint it on a side chain. They can even put it up for sale and they can earn funds. They can earn money back, all on this like fast side chain. But what's cool is this piece can eventually, if I'm logged in as Austin Griffith now, oh, I can't do that. Let's see. Let's log in over here as me. And now I'll go to that ink that was just created. Now I have the option to upgrade this to Ethereum mainnet. So we have a bridge between XDAI and Ethereum that's basically like this multi-signer thing that allows a token to get burnt on one side and created on the other side. So for $100, I could upgrade this and have this in OpenSea and everything. But as an artist, I was able to create it for free.
Do you have the code for that like readily handle? Is that open source? Like, do you have it like readily handy? Could be, because that's so that's huge right there.
Nifty Inc is just another, like the code is just another branch. If you go here and type in Nifty and go to Nifty Inc dev, this is all of Nifty Inc. There's a lot of setup because of all the bridging and stuff you have to do. So if you want to have a dev environment, you still need to have your dev environment across like 2 different test nets so you can test the bridging. But yeah, that's all open source, part of Scaffold ETH. The point I guess we were diving into is this looks like Patricio right here. It totally is, right?
Yeah.
I love it. The point of this is that this NFT traffic down the long tail of people wanting to buy and sell for dollars and not hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, they're kind of priced out of Ethereum right now, and we're seeing these other EVM compatible chains sort of catch that traffic and kind of hopefully cater to it, and eventually, if they do a good job, like upgrade to Ethereum and have, even though I can buy this for $10 here, I could eventually upgrade it to mainnet and sell it for, you know, thousands of dollars on OpenSea.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I think there's so much innovation to still happen with respect to all of that, but I'm just thinking like, what if this is probably stupid because I just thought of it, but like what if you had a signed message that could be redeemed for an NFT on any chain that supported like that, and then you redeem it on whatever chain is either maybe the cheapest or whichever one provides the most functionality for that NFT at the specific time that you're minting it. And then like at any other point, you can either transfer that NFT to a different chain or mint it on a different chain. Oh my God, there's just so much.
The one thing that we saw with 2 different chains and having the signature work on both is that you could get front run. So I want to have the piece of work over here and not have someone steal it and put it up over here. I want to have it like go through this bridge where the only way these things can get created is if they're burnt over here. So by having the 2 chains and just having a signature, that was like one of the first things we started with, is like, let's just have a signature based that works on both, and they can put it up over here. And then eventually if it gets enough value, they just put it up over here. But then we ran into like front runners in a weird way, like chain to chain front runners.
That makes sense. Question for you, Austin. Do you think that we will be continually moving assets from one chain to another, or do you think that we'll have like mirror representations of assets that exist on all these different chains, and then you can just kind of like
Oh man,
Either,
that's
I don't
tough.
know.
Yeah. See, I don't even know enough about like ETH2 protocol stuff. Like I don't know what yanking actually is. I know that there's going to be shards and you're going to be able to like bring stuff closer, and there's going to be more busy shards and less busy shards. And I imagine that like the DeFi shard will be like Manhattan and the NFT shard would be more like Brooklyn, right? There's going to be different traffic and things on those different shards. So I think that like, I still am. In my brain, I'm imagining the bridging and assets are burned on one side and show up on the other. I don't. But like I don't know, man. Like that's way out of my ballpark. I'm a lowly builder, dude. Speaking of tools in the toolbox, I do have a couple more to show. Just speaking of branches of Scaffold ETH, we were talking about generative art earlier. I wanted to show off if you wanted to do some kind of random. There's a couple ways you can do randomness within your smart contracts, but we have a VRF branch that, oops, that wasn't what I feel like I just created a VRF branch. Okay, maybe it's called Chainlink. Yes, there's a Chainlink demo here that shows how to use VRF. So you can use an oracle to give you a bunch of randomness that is actually, I think, commit revealed with a local of your own. So it's a piece of commit reveal, but I'll look at that commit reveal later. But if you just get on Scaffold ETH and you look for Chainlink, there's a bunch of these tutorials where it's right here in the README. You can kind of go through and figure out how Chainlink works. So if you wanted to bring in an oracle that said, whatever the weather is in Colorado, that's what the NFT that you're going to mint. Like maybe it's like a little house, and depending on whatever the weather is right now in Colorado, it puts that kind of weather in the NFT or something weird like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, even if you have like the VRF function in there, you could do like weird. You can do so much with randomness when it comes to NFTs. You could have like items with attributes where like maybe it's like strength and agility and dexterity, and then you just like randomize the amount that each item that gets minted gets. And so you could like have, I don't know, different qualities of items that get minted. Some could be like high quality because they scored high in those attributes. Some could be low quality. There's so many applications of
going back to this buffalo. Here's his attributes. When you upload this, it has these attributes on OpenSea, and OpenSea does a good job of figuring out how rare they are. I put in this stamina for some reason. It's not here, but yeah, I put in a stamina for this buffalo is 42 out of 99, and OpenSea just parsed that and figured it out. All I had to do is put it into that JSON that goes into that manifest.
Maybe
one other. Yeah, go ahead.
The show too. I think OpenSea, I mean, even if you deploy this stuff yourself on your own like little instance, I think that you kind of want your stuff on OpenSea because it makes it feel more real when you can show that an asset you're deploying over here also exists on this like kind of more, I don't want to call it centralized, but like centralized thing. Just showing that the assets live on Ethereum and anyone can like kind of tap into them. So I think that a lot of people are going to want to like host their assets on OpenSea in some way. And so there is like an OpenSea metadata standard that if you are creating your NFTs, like maybe you want to conform to that metadata standard so that metadata shows up on OpenSea when you put your NFT up there.
A weird case to speak to there. So here's the commit reveal, by the way. If you get into Scaffold ETH and you look for commit or commit reveal, there's multiple tutorials on how to do this within Scaffold ETH. But going to this idea of the OpenSea stuff and the standard, OpenSea kind of just decided that that's how that would work, that manifest. And so looking at a new project that was deployed just recently by Simon DLR, the Neolastics. If you look at the Neolastics smart contract, again, so many cool innovators and artists are building really cool things and they're all open source. Just go to Simon DLR's GitHub and look at his Neolastics NFT. It's going to be just like similar to the simple one that I have, but he's made his own tweaks. So what he did there is he creates the SVG as part of the token URI. So he actually generates an image in Solidity by combining strings, and you get a giant SVG that is basically a Neolastic that is the different, quadrants and different colors.
That's cool.
And then he retroactively fires that as an event and uploads it to OpenSea. So it meets the OpenSea standard, but not actually, because he's actually putting in the SVG right in the contract, like we should be doing, right? So there's this really interesting kind of back versioning that he did where he still minted it in the contract, but then went ahead and pushed it to the OpenSea to meet the standard also. Dudes, I think we've covered so much here. I don't even know. Loot boxes we covered, burning physical merchandise we covered, generative Photoshop layers, artist royalties. Dude, let's talk artist royalties real quick. I think that it's an easy thing to build into a contract. So right now the model is usually the platform provides some artist royalties. What we would really like to see is those artist royalties inside the token itself. And I think that's a challenge to the community to think about. I'll kind of pitch that back to you guys first and then come up. There's a couple thoughts I have, but I'd like to hear what you guys think about this.
I'm totally unaffiliated with this project, but there's something called, have you checked out Charged Particles?
Yep.
So
it's about like buying a piece of an NFT. Is that right?
I probably am going to butcher this explanation, but the way that I'm thinking about it is you can fill an NFT with other tokens, and then you can basically program how like the rewards from those tokens are distributed. And so I think this, like a big use case of that is going to be royalties, because it's not just, a lot of times it's not just the artist. If it's just like a one-to-one mapping of like NFT to one person getting paid, yeah, that's very easy to just like throw into your NFT contract. But if you want to pay like maybe the artist and your manager and all these different parties that might be involved in your, creative production programmatically, you can now do that with like maybe a charged particle type thing.
And that's Ethereum. It's programmable money.
We're
just adding a new line of code to make a whole different mechanic work. Yeah. So the artist royalty idea that I've had with other people is if you wanted to pay people on transfer, that's kind of a hard thing to do. You have to keep track of it in the contract itself. But what you can do is hijack that transfer function as long as it fits the same. It has to work exactly the same way for all of these other platforms. And I guess rewind a little bit. The way that artist royalties work right now is a platform will sell something and they'll say every time this NFT sells, we've got a piece in our code somewhere else that also pays the artist. And we're kind of flipping that over and saying, can we write the artist getting paid right into the token contract? And if the token contract is controlling funds, then you can do it. And one neat way that we found is if the token contract is holding those funds, like if you have a curve where you have instant liquidity, every time that token transfers, you can leak a little bit of that to the artist. And that's a really interesting mechanic. And I think I haven't seen that built yet. I know a guy that's working on it, but I hope he gets there first. But if you out there who are listening, you should go too. Like all of these little tweaks to these little mechanics can make a whole new thing. And you can start with like a nice NFT platform kind of off the shelf and build out what you want to build and get whatever you want minted.
Yeah.
I think that's...
If you're like more of a techie and looking for like business cases for this stuff. So with royalties, a lot of times what happens is artists get physical checks for, it could be like 30 cents or like $1. They're mailing these, like middlemen are mailing these artists physical checks, knowing that they're not going to cash them because the amounts are so low. And now we can like, by eliminating all that friction, we can like actually get the artist paid, even if it's like small amounts like that in aggregate is going to add up to a lot. And so there's this whole, everything is so ripe for disruption. It's kind of crazy.
If you're an artist and you're creating things, if you're a content creator and you have a community of people, find your nerd buddy and get them this repo and let's start collaborating. Hit me up in the DMs too. I can help out. Thanks, guys. This has been awesome. Any closing statements? Awesome. I feel like Joe's sitting in the dark. I feel bad. I'm mansplaining over here.
No, it got dark on me, but no, that was like drinking from the fire hose since I've taken a month or two off. There's just so many new innovations going on. I love how accessible you've made and how easily understandable you've made a lot of these pretty complicated technologies with one little repo. Well, little is a missed.
I wish it was smaller.
One large repo, but yeah, really cool stuff. Really exciting, and looking forward to seeing, just all the different ways people, take what has been built and make it even crazier.
Yeah, just echoing that. I think like this was awesome and awesome. Thank you. This has been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting us on. And yeah, to kind of echo Joe, I think that you know, I personally have trouble explaining a lot of these concepts to people, and you like through code, I think that's like the best explanation of some of these things. Like if you can just show people like 4 lines of code, it's like, oh, you know, that's the burn function, or like that's a bonding curve, and people are like, oh, that makes so much sense, as opposed to trying to use this like abstract vocabulary to explain these concepts. I think just seeing them in practice helps so much. So maybe, I guess, just the last word of advice for people out there is like, maybe you don't need to spend so much time diving into these abstract white papers with all these crazy math to do cool stuff. There's so much low-hanging fruit right now for things where you don't need like crazy abstract mathematics or cryptography to do so. You just like write some code, see what happens. Just throw things against the wall, see what sticks. It doesn't have to be crazy or like extremely smart. You don't need to like wear your pride on your shoulder and like, you know, show people up with your big brain self. Like just do stuff and throw it against the wall, and you know, maybe it'll work. So yeah, thank you again, Austin. This is awesome, and everything that you're doing is awesome. So thank you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, no, I remember when I thought I was a galaxy brain coming into the space, and the space was going to be so happy to have me. No, sir.
And they're very happy to have you. I don't know where we're without you.
There's definitely, I'm kind of the top of the bell curve in terms of IQ in the space. I feel like there's a ton of galaxy brain people beyond that, but I'm the guy you're talking about taking tools off the shelf and building something interesting that people can use, and getting that like almost like product market fit is something to talk about. I think my challenge, lots of NFT hackathons coming up. There's one from ETH Global NFT hackathons, but there's going to be a ton more. I want to make the challenge of utility. We kind of hinted at utility here, but what if an NFT is a license to prove that I am a certain age without exposing it? Or what if an NFT says that I'm KYC'd into this? Or NFTs can also do things off chain, where if you own this NFT, you can use Collabland to get into this special Telegram group, right? I can do that right now. I can make a Nifty Inc. I can send it to a bunch of people and then send them an invite link, and only the people that own the token can get through that invite link to my Telegram channel. So that would be the challenge I'd put out there, is just like finding utility in these cool things that we're deploying, and finding new mechanics that are interesting and play to the fact that like we have money at the protocol, and there's like this decentralized censorship resistant storage layer and execution layer. So much neat stuff. Hopefully like just getting exposed to this gives you like 40 different ideas, and you can kind of just run with whatever.
And before we go, I have to echo what you said, because that's what it's nagging me a little bit. Like people are, I love the art, I love all these creative use cases, but we have to get into like the utilization of these NFTs for like interesting things. So I highly encourage everyone to innovate in that realm, because there is an infinite amount of things that we can do. There's an infinite number of use cases, from opening a door to like allowing you into a specific Discord channel to whatever, to getting you a discount on Synthetics Exchange. There's so much stuff, and it's a completely untapped realm of innovation. So yeah.
Like a farmer could get minted in an NFT if it's freezing in Colorado tomorrow. That could be something.
That's
right?
Cool. Yeah. Oh my God. Right.
One thing that we didn't disclaimer at the beginning, that we should have disclaimered at the beginning, is there's a lot of greed in this space. There's a lot of greed even around NFTs right now. And try it as an artist, as a mainstream person, as a builder, as whoever you are, try to see through the greed, past the 90% greed, and see the 10% of really freaking cool innovation, and sort of a glimpse at the future in that 10%, and try to be in that 10%. Try to build something interesting, not just for money. Arts guys, happy Tuesday. This was really great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Austin.